Hi, it's Gene. I just want to talk about something today. In the title, I think I'm going to put why I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, and I just talk through that at this point. I am still registered as a Democrat. I've never taken it down. I grew up in a family that was classical liberal, um, Illinois. Whole family were Democrats. Some of them actually were in office. Some were judges. Um, but it was a different type of time back then. A lot of people who were Democrats back then, the 60s and 70s, were trying to fix things that were broken, let's say, civil rights, um, I guess women's rights, although I don't think that was ever really, I think that's a whole different video. So those people tended to be Democratic, even though the Democrats were the ones that put them in those situations. Also, the unions ran the Democratic Party back then, and that was obviously very corrupt. Um, but the parties weren't that far apart from each other. They weren't, and they had the ability to actually sit down and talk to each other and pass stuff. Then just the '60s happens, and then the the import of all the stuff with the Hard Seller Act, immigration, flooding the country, and not just legal immigration, illegal immigration. Then you got Reagan tried to fix that by doing the amnesty for 12 million, and now it's even worse. It is now, and people want to say that there's something wrong with that, but I want to get it all to one. My point is, I don't trust either one of them. First of all, the left is just they claim to be the side of science, but when you talk about what is a woman, they can't answer it, and they think that abortion's okay. But all those women that online and sit there, they're pro-choice and they're just so fervent that it's their body. They would have a conviction ship. I can't say the word. If we did something to a dog like that, that we just showed aborting a dog online or something, they would say, "Oh, we can't say that. Why would you do that to the puppy? Why would you do that?" But when it's a human, it changes what their mind space is, and then they will definitely look at whatever studies and they'll say this is all scientific, but they don't understand how science works. If we get more data and it changes what we thought it was before, the theory that we had before, they can't deal with it. So this whole Tylenol thing, it's like we've known for a while that you probably shouldn't be taking any drugs when you're married, when you're pregnant. And this has been going on for 12, 13 years. We've had studies about Tylenol forever saying you probably shouldn't be doing it. Especially in Europe, they've had this for a long time. And there's a uptick if you're taking it, I'm not going to say habitually, but there's a time that I had when I was, well, before I found I had, was it during cancer? I don't know, maybe my back, whatever. I was just taking it all the fucking time. Now, obviously, I'm not a woman, so I habitually used it for pain relief. And I don't do it anymore, but you should never just take things over and over and over again. And I think in order for you to get to the point where it actually would affect something like that, I think it probably have to be more than that. But I don't know. But there's been thousands of doctors have looked at this, and you have to understand that the biases that a lot of these doctors have. They are biased by the people that fund their researches. So you never really know. And years ago, because I had a son that was had so many mental medical issues, and most of the people that we talk to are good people, good doctors, but you also find out they're human, right? And you definitely could see things in the corridors when you're sitting in hospitals every day, and you hear them talking about stuff, and they'll be talking about a research thing they're doing, or they'll be pushing stuff on you. Here, we have this trial thing you can give, and it's free, so you don't have to go buy it, and you become like a subject for their trial. So they're getting paid for something to actually send that out. And there's a movie I think with Jake Gyllenhaal and what's her face, Batwoman, I guess, and he is one of those type of people. But anyway, so to get to my point, I can't really trust the Republicans are just flippy floppy on so many issues. Now that free speech, it seems like that they're against it. Article 230. They want to basically censor what we say online, on Google, on YouTube, and they want to classify on different types of people. And they will say that if you can't have any critique of a certain state in the Middle East or a community that is not white and Christian, or we can't talk about people's weight, we can't talk about their disability, we can't talk about basically anything. And the biggest issue I have, because people don't really want to be mean to people, right? They don't. But you see online, you see after Charlie got killed, you notice that people will say crazy things. And I think after all that, they think now we need to shut down the social media people from saying stuff like this. Okay, you're going to do that because you think Charlie and their family shouldn't deal all that stuff. And yeah, all that's probably right. But this is the reason why we know the bad people. We want to be focused on the bad people when they say stupid shit online. So we know I'll never follow this person. I won't listen to anything this person has to say because there's something wrong with them. So why would I even do it? And again, it's basically the government saying that we can't deal with it because we're the public. That we have big gaddy government has to come down and tell us what we're going to do, and that goes for everything. And I think I heard something today on Tucker Carlson. I 100% agree with this. When people sit there and say, you can't be saying this stuff online or all that stuff like that, and you look at them and say, well, how about this? You tell me everything about everything that's happened in the federal government for the last 200 years. Let me know about all the different stuff. JFK, the UFOs, Epstein, if you want to know, everything. Let it all out there so we can actually understand that. And then we could somewhat trust you again. So when people like Candace Owens or Justin on Fire or David, what's his name? Whatever. A lot of people out there saying they don't believe the narrative for Charlie Kirk's death. We have so many people coming out right there and say, we got to stop this, we got to stop this, we got to stop this. Well, how about you just tell us everything? Okay, give us all the information. If you don't trust us, that shows you that you just treat us like kids. So why should I trust you as the leaders for me? And unfortunately, a lot of that's come from the right side right now. Now, I guess, obviously, in the left, we got Gavin Newsom and his cronies in California that will basically say if you say anything against any type of group that isn't a white person, that you're going to be in trouble for it. Now, they're going to censor you on the platform, right? Or that type of thing, so you won't have access to that. But eventually, they'll come to your door. And they're doing it in England right now. They will knock on your door if you say something about immigration. And that's one of the quote-unquote protected classes in California. And it's also, as I might just say this, not to be anti-Semitic or anything, but we had a congressman in Nebraska. You figure like a red state. Now there are parts of they're just responding to. I'm sorry, I was looking at one of my responses on Facebook. So you have a red state now, obviously, where the university is, like Lincoln and Omaha are more blue, let's say. But overall, the state is red. He was talking to Greenblatt from the ADL. Now, you don't just go ahead and look up what they believe what hate speech is. And they basically say any person, any type of group. Now, it didn't used to be like this. It just used to be talk about Jewish people. But now they have to put every marginalized person you can't say anything about, and we're going to fight against that. Now, of course, they don't go against the Arabs. They don't go against Muslims because they will continually say the same shit that a lot of people say about Jews. They'll say that Arabs and Muslims have too much influence in our country. To compare the influence of the Muslim in this country, maybe not in the West, not over in England and France or anything, but clearly here, try to compare the amount of influence that Israel or the Jewish people have in our government compared to Muslims. Well, there's some of that, but it's not even close, of course. So you got this guy from a red state, and he's talking to this Greenblatt who's been against free speech for 20 years, 30 years. They frame it that they are, We got to stop all this stuff. We can't talk about the Holocaust. We can't talk about the numbers. We can't talk about anything like that because that's anti-Semitic. You know what you can't talk about? You can't talk about the 5 books of the Bible because all that's anti-Semitic because it basically says that Jesus was God. Okay, you can't talk about that. That's anti-Semitic. Saying the word Christ is King is now anti-Semitic, and that should be a hate speech thing. This is the United States of America, which is clearly built as Christian principles. Almost all the founders were Christian, some more than other, but clearly they got the framework from the Bible. Okay, anyway, so you have this red state congressman talking to this Jew, saying that we're going to do what we got to do about that, and he's like, "We'll listen to everything the ADL has to say to us because you guys obviously are best at this because you've been going after hate speech forever." Now, it's not me, but years ago the Supreme Court said there's no such thing as hate speech. You can't have hate speech when you're a place you have to have free speech. Now, if somebody said something, or if they something and they incited violence against a certain group, obviously that can be for something else, right? That's not free speech, right? You can say it, but you sure as hell can go to jail for it, right? Especially if something happens. But they're not want that. They don't want any critique of anything. If I say this, let's just say, you know what? We need to have this conversation about the black community because the single father or single mothers in the house is showing, when you look at the data, that it's not a good result for most of the kids in those situations. So how do we fix that? Do we want the government to come in there more and more and more, give more and more money to these women to have babies and never have fathers in the home? Or are we going to say, maybe we're going to try to do something to try to get men to stay home, maybe do something in their communities, put some factories there. I guess they have to want to do this, right? That's the thing. And then hopefully they'll have their family unit back like it used to have before Martin Luther was killed, right? Their dynamic was very similar to the white community back then. Now it's totally different. 80% of those homes are single mothers, and it's not a good thing. Now, by saying that, people will say to me that I'm racist. And then if I spout statistics like 14 times more that a black man kills a white man going the other way, then that somehow is racist, and that's hate speech, and I should be, I don't know, what are you going to do with throw me in jail because of this? And the idea that you don't think it's going there, I don't think it necessarily go there for that, although you saw what happened at Tennessee State the other day when those 2 conservative guys went on there, and the people just went off the rails because people just asking questions, and they couldn't really respond to it. And then they started using the same thing that they made everything. These 20-year-old people on a historically black college, which are somewhat funded by conservatives and Donald Trump, are trying to say that they built everything and white people didn't do anything. But anyway, they get all upset. They can't have control for themselves. These are people in college, and they run these guys off the campus. Okay, so that just shows that we don't want to talk about stereotypical stuff, but what you're seeing there is that they are fed this shit since in regular public schools, not a black elementary school. It's already in public education, that they're victims since the day they were born. And then they go to a black university and they continually talk about this. And again, this is a place that only graduates 1 out of every 4 that goes there. And it has the lowest requirements to be into it. It's not considered at the highest level, but again, most public universities are not, they're not great places. You can go there if you push yourself to what you're going to do, something that's more technical, even business, but you just go don't do this other stuff in social areas or communications or social work and all that you just focus what you can do. You're still going to find the indoctrination, I can't say the word, the indoctrination on some of these classes, because the professors will be almost universally will be leftists. They won't just be progressive or just on the left. They will be leftists because they can't really get a job anywhere else, so they have to stay in academia. Now, when you're let's say you go out to the business world for 40 years and you say, you know what, when I'm 55, I'm going to come back, or 60, I want to come back. In the last 10 years, I'm going to just want to be a professor. So you've been in the real world. That's what I would assume would be somebody that has balance on what they believe. Even if they're more on the left, they're more balanced because they're in the real world. If you just go in and you get your bachelor's and your master's and you get your PhD, and then you become adjunct professor, and then you become a professor, you never leave academia. You want to talk about the biggest echo chamber that there ever is going to universities on campuses here in the United States. It's just that way. There is no, there's so many of them there. It's 90% liberal in all these places, except you go to Liberty or something like that. And they just continually bounce off each other. So, and they think that they're smartest because they have 3 degrees. I hear this the other day. She's got 3 degrees and she's a feminist icon. I'm like, okay. You do realize that college is basically built for women now. But anyway, getting back to what I was talking about, and this is what happens with me. I can't trust the Republicans because now it sounds like to me that they want to censor my speech. And I can't trust the left because they don't believe in reality. You know, I could have empathy or sympathy, like Charlie Kirk would say, about certain people going through tough times and they don't really understand their own identity. I definitely understand that. Do I think that it's a problem that's mentally in nature? No, I think 95% of it is that they've been something on social media or something like that, and they just went down this way, and this way I'm going to get my attention. Do I think that there's some of them that actually have dysphoria or gender dysphoria? Yes. I think it's the same number that it was 10 years ago, less than 0.1%. The rest of them is them looking for attention, looking for that dopamine fix, and then getting so far in their own self-addictive type of personality, they get to the point where like, no, go ahead and put chemicals into me. When half of them come off of all this shit, they want to they want to go back. That should tell you that something's wrong with it. When they say that the only reason we're doing this because we don't want them to kill themselves, and if we affirm this care, that less people kill them, it's only about 5% difference. So it's it's not somebody of my age can sit there and absolutely say and not understand that how can this possibly be happening? I think it's bad enough that we mutilate our boys when they're born. That happened to me. I had no choice of it, but I did. Well, one of my boys did have it, and the other one doesn't have it. That's bad enough for me because there's no medical reason to do it, to do a circumcision. And we can go down that rabbit hole too, why we actually are getting it done. This is not a Christian thing. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's like an old ritual thing. And when you go down that rabbit hole, you're like, okay. So, anyway. But we allow them to do things or cut off their breasts or cut or do something with their dick to make it more of a vagina. We talk about what Mengele did in the prisons, whether you believe that he did all that he was doing stuff to babies and all that stuff. And we think that it's abhorrent, but we allow it here. In certain states, we're still allowed to do it. Because we're basically not talking about common sense. We're saying we have to affirm and confirm that who you are. Well, I don't really care if you're 18 and you want to dress like another, fine. But I am not going to sit there and say I affirm that you should do that to your kid. And when you talk about child abuse, you've got to be kidding me. And all of these are the same type of people. Almost all of them are women that do it. They're the same people that get on TikTok and say the same shit. And then these are the same women, they're 40 years old. If they did have kids, they may have supported all this other shit. Then they complain because there's no good men. Now, not all, right? I still think overall, the vast majority of both sexes have their heads screwed on right. They don't all vote. You know, we get, 150 million voted last time? There's still probably another, 60 million that could have voted that time, or even more. So, So at this point in my life, as I said in my videos before, it's not right versus left. It's not Democrat versus Republican. It's versus it's evil versus good, good versus bad, and I can clearly say what's bad. It's not good to support that. Okay, you can help the person when they're going through it. You could sit there and say, "Hey, let's just make us just take a step back. Let's take a step back. Let's be patient about this. Let's just see what happens." And you know what they do? They actually do that. Once that person gets through puberty, most of them go away from it. A lot of them turns out to just be gay men, right? That now they realize that they were gay. This was just kind of almost like a phase, right? But we can't say that because they want to compare it to people who are gay. Well, they're just going through a phase. They'll get through it. I mean, I've said that before. I understand that, but this is a little bit different. When you're actually trying to change what God gave you to something else physically, you have to understand there might be something more here than just that. And it normally is. They've either been addicted to something, and this is their way of getting their fix. And if all of them actually decided after they had the surgery that it was fine, or the proof was always there, but it's not. The science is, when they talk about science, the left is supposed to be all about that, but when they actually looked at the science, you would have saw that it doesn't do anything else for them. In the very few cases it does, these are probably people all along that actually had gender dysphoria from the very beginning. So we're talking about the small amount of people that actually might benefit from it. I don't see why, but whatever. All right, I'm going to stop right now. I've been talking for 20 years off, 20 already. But again, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm still probably going to vote, but they're both parties are not doing what's best for the American people. So I guess the best thing I would ask you to do is just read the scriptures as much as you can. Listen to everybody's side. I think I always do that. I still listen to both sides, and then I go from there. And then if I think that somebody's worthy of my vote, I might vote for them, even though I understand that maybe my vote doesn't mean anything. But I'm going to be involved. But if I'm in a group with somebody, and this comes up, and somebody starts spouting this shit, I am not going to sit down and say no. I'm not going to sit there and not respond, because that is over anymore. It's over. We can't allow them to continually destroy our society because they're so, I don't even know what the word is. It's just like, they're naive. No, they're not. They're controlled. They're no common sense. I mean, none of these people would have thought this way when they're 20. 40-year-old women, they would have never thought that yeah, it's the best thing you should do is let them do all this to their body. Or anyway, I'm going to stop right there. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you guys later.